All right, and welcome back to Tallahassee Talk here, episode 21, the official podcast of the Tallahassee Soccer Club. Thanks for coming back with us here for this episode. I'm Andrew Jupe, and across the other side, to my left, Trent Young. How we doing, big dog?
Doing well, buddy. Good to see you again. It's been a little while, but season's just around the corner, man. Can't wait to get going.
Absolutely. An informal sabbatical, if you will, Trent. We tried to bridge the off-season. Hit the maiden voyage, but we'll get going. We'll be more regular when the regular season hits. But like you said, man, just a couple weeks for the season. And so, since the last time that we talked, Trent, or last time we talked to the people, schedule's been released. And so we talked about just a couple weeks away, the premiere coming up against Jacksonville. Trent, I guess either first week thoughts or schedule as a whole. When you saw it, what was going through your head?
So as a whole, really excited about the beginning of the season. Obviously, we got a ton of games. I believe that's 5 out of 6 that we'll have at home to start the season. So, if you live in Tallahassee and you're around at the beginning of the summer, that's a great time to be a TSC fan. Unfortunately, it gets a little rough after that. We've got 5 out of the following 6 away, obviously, since we had so many at home before that. So that's kind of tough to end the season that way. But I think that puts us in a good position to gain a lot of momentum going forward. We'll be at home in front of our home crowd, in front of our friends, our family. We'll be able to use that as an advantage. A lot of these other teams will have to be traveling to come out to see us. So I think that should benefit us well long-term, but really excited about that first game of the season against Jacksonville at home, April 30th. That'll be a great one. We'll see, the only 2 teams actually playing that entire weekend in the Gulf Coast Conference. So that's pretty cool that, all eyes will be on Tallahassee right there at Gene Cox Stadium. So really excited for that one, man, and can't wait to get out there with you.
Absolutely. Yeah, so we kick things off just a couple weeks away, Trent. Like you said, April 30th, you can see the screenshot that we put up here, the schedule upcoming, Trent. Yeah, man, you can't mess around. You got to get the home games. So as far as TSC is concerned, you're talking about a path to a title, right? About how many points we need to average and all those kind of dynamics that we get into that we'll be discussing ad nauseum throughout the season. But for TSC, Trent, this is a money grab, man. You have to bag a lot of points early in order to set yourself up for a run. Because, the old adage is, Trent, win at home, tie on the road. Of course, there's some really good teams in this conference. They're going to be tough to beat or tough to draw on the road. So in these stretches, one of the emphasis is going to be, can you win games at home? And we're going to get a test right off the bat, dude. Just like last season, you're going to go against arguably the best team in the conference when you shake it down. Thoughts on getting Jacksonville right off the bat? Better or worse for TSC that we get them as soon as possible?
That's got to be better, man, because you think about it, we've got all these U19 kids that have just been waiting in the wings, playing last fall, playing this spring. They'll be ready to go, and they'll be able to bridge that gap for us. For any of the returning college players, if they're not able to get back in time, I think Johnny was out a week or 2 at the beginning of the year last year, playing up in Akron still and going throughout the school year and doing everything that it takes for a student athlete to compete. So, we'll have kind of an advantage. I think that way, we've been having these U19 kids play together, building that chemistry, and they'll be able to showcase that if they get called up, and there's a good chance that they will be. But yeah, man, just excited because we've got a chance to get a point, if not 3 against Jacksonville, just trying to catch them a little bit short-staffed and real quick at the beginning of the season. So I'm excited for that one. We've almost won that one last year. It was 2-1, and we had a great goal from Cole Red. I'll never forget it. That was incredible. So hopefully we get a couple like those and don't give up any this time. So that'll be good. We thought it actually should have been a 1-1 draw. There was kind of a push off on one of the goals that they had. We can always get back into that at another time. But so it'll be a very evenly even matchup, I think. So I'm excited for that one, and you should be too, man. Saturday, April 30th, Gene Cox Stadium.
Absolutely. Yeah, man, that'll be the first initial one for the kickoff. Like you said, all eyes on Tallahassee. Nobody in the Gulf Coast Conference. So our little set of teams here, and I'm pretty sure we're one of the first ones nationwide to kick off the summer league schedule here for the NPSL. Of course, the National Premier Soccer League, it is legitimately a nationwide organization. Up from New York area, Northeast, we've got teams down in Miami, all the way down in Southern California, all the way up in the Northwest, Trent, and everywhere in between. Truly a nationwide affair. So it'll be a really high profile getting things started going. So, Trent, we'll not necessarily get into the numbers game as much as we kind of usually do. I think we'll save that for closer to before the season, Trent, as far as like breaking down the schedule. Hey, maybe some predictions of the game slash chunk up the schedule a little bit and see in these 2-3 games, right? Because essentially you have to chunk it in 2 or 3 game segments. Hey, if we get this result, what realistically do we need to get out of the first couple games or something like that, as we would do. I think we can save that exercise. But let's just talk about big picture of those first couple games. Jacksonville at home, on the road at Florida Roots, home versus Pensacola. Obviously, we kind of do our little sub-conference play. We're playing all the Florida teams early. Thoughts on that schedule, and do you think that benefits TSC at all? Or because this is exactly how we started last year. Same exact spread,
Mm-hmm.
Jacksonville, Roots, Pensacola.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, all of those games within the state of Florida, just a 2, 3 hour drive away. So I definitely think that'll help us because, everybody's got their jobs, their lives Monday through Friday. And, they obviously practice throughout the week, but, they're playing on Saturday. And so just to be able to make a day trip and not have to go all the way out to New Orleans or something so early on in the season, I think that will benefit a lot. And that'll, just give them a little bit more time to stay at home and be in their routine and prep the way they need to prep to be prepared to take on the Florida Roots and Pensacola. So those are two teams that, we pretty much split with last year. Well, we didn't win against Pensacola. We drew with them the first time around. But yeah, I mean, those were great matchups that we had out there. That first game against the Florida Roots when Cy came on and scored. I mean, those are great games early on in the season, and that really helped shape the way that the team was going to be set up. In my opinion, the roster was set up, and there were a few changes throughout the rest of the year, but a lot of the players that played late in the season were there early on. And so hopefully that'll be the same case this year. We'll get into that a little bit more later on, but yeah, man.
Absolutely. So let's go to the next chunk. Just kind of quick reactions. At home, all 3 of these are at home. Southern States, Florida Roots, Jesters.
Yeah, so the Southern States game, that's going to be a good one because they represented the whole NPSL Gulf Coast Conference. Sorry, that's a tongue twister. And when they played Birmingham Legion this past week, and so they were able to advance in the U.S. Open Cup, and they were able to actually play one of these more legitimate, established lower league teams in the United States, not just in the South, but in the entire United States.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was really cool seeing them step up and represent the conference. Obviously, we want to get there. We want to be there next year and every year after. But that'll be a good test, and we'll have them at home early on. So that'll be just another game we can have home field advantage and hopefully use that to go ahead and grab at least a point against them. I think that would be a huge win. I mean, obviously we want to get 3 at home, like you said, with the old adage, but even if you just get 1 point against the team that just won the conference and advanced, several rounds up into the U.S. Open Cup, that'd be pretty impressive, I think. So we get them early on after we play Pensacola. Then we play the Roots, another game that's kind of a toss-up. I think we're pretty evenly matched. 2 of the younger teams in the entire conference, but, 2 teams with great youth academies and programs, U19s that are paving the way for the future. And, they experience great competition out there. They've got an incredible youth program. That's actually where Cy Fontenot played growing up as a kid. So obviously a very pristine program, as you know. But yeah, and then we get the Jesters, a game that we tied last year. Grant Wallum came up clutch, man, had save after save, kept us in that. So hopefully we'll be a little bit better defensively and we can kind of put the pressure on them and make their keeper step up as opposed to having our step up this go round.
Absolutely. And they say the second half is where you make your money, Trent. As we flip after this set of home games, we go into the second half of the season on the road to Hattiesburg, Mississippi versus Southern States. On the road during the week on a Wednesday to Jacksonville. On the road that same Saturday. So within 8 days, we're playing 3 games, and we have to travel to Southern States, to Jacksonville, and to New Orleans, the top 3 teams in the conference. Thoughts?
Yeah, no, that'll be tough. That's easily the toughest stretch of the entire season, like you said. Top 3 dogs right there for sure. I mean, that Wednesday game, Jacksonville, that's good for me. As a Jacksonville resident, I don't have to travel too far in the middle of the week. So I'm looking forward to that, but I'm probably the only one who is a TSC fan that is looking forward to that one. Southern States and New Orleans, those are some drives, man. Getting out there pretty far out past the state line. And, it's 3.5 hours just to Pensacola. So you're going further than that each time you get in the van to go out there. So definitely will be thinking and praying about the boys on those trips just to get out there safely. But yeah, I mean, that's a brutal stretch there. So hopefully, like we said, we can set ourselves up earlier in the season to where we're not, desperately fighting for these 3 points that we can get on the road or however many we're aiming to get on the road at that point in the season. We can kind of have a little bit more leeway to set ourselves up for the rest of the season. So we'll have a couple more games after that. So Ju, why don't you go ahead and tell us about those next three, man?
Yeah, the backstretch. Let's save the best for last, man. Of course, the AFC games, they're kind of our frenemy, if you will. I think most equitable rival in all sense. They were part of the Gulf Coast Premier League, and I feel like we're hand in hand in a lot of operations. We've got a great rivalry with them, so those games are always fun. We play them home and away, kind of a Pensacola sandwich, if you will. Home versus AFC, and then we'll play Pensacola on the road, and then on the road to AFC. And of course, you look about those three games, like you talked about, the AFC matchup is always so much fun and exciting. So we'll play them twice. But then on the other side, this could be the decisive game for the A50 Cup. This may be, we'll have to double check the schedule, but of course, Pensacola and us were in a decisive game to decide the Cup last year. This will essentially be the same kind of situation most likely this year. So it should be a really exciting adventure to have that down the stretch. So you look at it back half of June and the beginning of July after coming off a holiday break for the 4th. Will be really exciting. Great way to end the season. We'll get that last home game in Trent. So it'll be good to get one more at the back end. And who knows, maybe the week after that, hosting potentially a playoff game if we get to the semis or the championship. But a lot to be decided then. But that's about it, man. I'm liking the schedule, really excited for it here coming forward this season. And I think it's something to build off, something to get excitement. And, man, we're going to have to really get in here in maybe an episode or two and really kind of get to the nitty-gritty of what we can expect or what we need out of these kind of four junks as we quarter up the season here. But I'm ready for the action, big dog. Any final thoughts on the schedule?
Just excited for the game on the 23rd up at Thomas University, the preseason game, and then to get out there at the Gene on April 30th, man. So can't wait.
Absolutely. So we're going to keep things rolling. We're going to jump out for a quick break. MVP interview coming up next. Come right on back. And alrighty, we're joined by a very important person here today on the show. Of course, if you can see him, you're familiar with the club, you already know. Coaching experience at Lincoln High School, the U19s of the Tallahassee Soccer Club. Family man all over Tallahassee, big-time soccer, and of course the senior team here at Tallahassee Soccer Club. Coach Josh Bruno. Coach, appreciate it. Also don't want to forget, just updated the record books, Coach. I checked. You're still tied for 6 all-time at Thomas University for all-time goals. So a man that can put it in and can still do it in the weekend leagues, Coach, as people still rumbling about your scoring exploits. So a man who's all in on soccer. Coach Bruno, thanks for taking some time, Coach.
Thank you, Andrew, for having me. It's really nice to be able to come in and talk with you.
Absolutely. So, Coach, let's get right into it, man. Schedule dropped here this week, depending on the release of the podcast, maybe last week. Opening weekend, we talked about it. TSC is going to host the Jacksonville Armada, the only teams in the Gulf Coast Conference playing. So you guys are going to be able to set the example for the rest of the league to give a showcase about how you guys throw a party down there at the Gene on Saturday nights, and as well the competition on the field, hoping to get some results against, which is, correct me if I'm wrong, Coach, probably going to be one of the top one or two teams to get in this league. What are your guys' thoughts going into this match coming up April 30th is game day one?
We have that date circled. We're excited about our opponent. It's a very, very storied club with a vast history. Last year it was our opening game in front of 900 plus people. The atmosphere was amazing. So we're looking to see how we can grow off of that. And then in terms of the quality on the field, they're as good as anybody in our conference, and maybe up there with some of the best teams in all of the country.
Yeah, absolutely. Of course, running away with it at times, it seemed last year, was Jacksonville. You guys played them really well, 2-1 contest last year, and it will be a really exciting one down there to open the season for you guys, so really excited about it. Another recent thing going on with the club, Coach, is tryouts. You guys hosted open tryouts. Anybody that wanted to come through and try to make the senior team here this fall, give me kind of an update. How did things go, I guess, overall? And are we going to see some of those guys come the fall, or what's kind of the feel all over with those tryouts and coming out of it?
Oh, absolutely. So the open tryouts, we had about 50 participants. And out of those 50 participants, we invited about 15, 16 of them to a training session that we held, and we involved our U19s, and we played a game. And it was a way for us to kind of see how they played against our U19 team. It was a way for us to see how our U19s played against men in different competition. And it was actually a surprise where from most open tryouts, with the exception of the first year, we've had a few, but this year I think we might have a handful of players that are on the roster come opening day. One kid I'm really excited about was on the team in the first season and played more on the reserve team. And he went away chasing a dream and got to go play in Italy and got to play in Costa Rica. And now he's back here at FAMU finishing up his degree for the next 3 months. And he came through the open tryouts, and he's probably somebody that will be on the roster came the opening day. Been involved with the training with the U19 so far since he's been back. So someone that I was really excited to see through the open tryouts. And then there was a few other players that were just really nice surprises, that having an idea of most of the players in this community, that there's not too many players that I'm shocked about or I didn't know about it. And to see 3 of them at the open tryout that were the first time I've seen them since the open tryout. I've seen them 3 different times just to make sure that they passed the test and it wasn't the one-time thing, and to see there's some consistency there. And it was a pleasant surprise to know that there is still talent in this area that's untapped, that we don't know about, that they don't even know about us. So hopefully we can get the word out there and find these types of players that ultimately make up our team.
Absolutely. Super cool. Super cool. Well, great that you're still finding gems, Coach. We're excited to meet these guys, get some names, put some faces to names as we continue on. Realistically, I know you guys kind of carried a practice squad or reserve squad, for lack of a better term, Coach. What's the roster size looking like, or what are your goals going into the season? Because there's a lot of fluctuation, especially early. You talked about it before all the college guys get back, and the kind of infusion of talent within the team that we'll see, probably over the first 3 or 4 weeks. Realistically, weekly at practice, what do we expect to see? Maybe about 30, or what's kind of your number? Is there a magic number that you and the coaching staff have here for this season to carry in weekly practices?
So it's unique because of how you touched on. A lot of these teams are made up of collegiate players. Some teams are completely made up of collegiate players, and some a handful. Mm-hmm. And we're one of the ones that we have a handful of them, but not completely made up. So when we start training with the men, we'll have 12 to 14 guys on a consistent basis, which ultimately isn't enough for what we're trying to do and what we're trying to prepare for. So in the first year, we had to have the very, very large group of training, and it was 30, 40 person training sessions. And it was just really big and really busy. Mm-hmm. And there was almost too much going on to notice what you needed to see. Mm-hmm. So to fix that problem, we see that our future is with these young players. The U19s, there's a handful of them that will be playing with the men this year. There's a handful that will be playing with the men next year. And we see that that's where we can find the players that adequately can help our men train until we're at full strength. And as that happens, these 19s are going to grow and they're going to get better and they're going to become men. And they're going to have a little bit of a head start of playing with men from the time they're 15, 16, 17 years old, and understanding the game at that physicality and that speed and that level, as opposed to playing kids your own age, where there's never a big separation in terms of the size or the maturity or the strength or the speed or the experience. So we're super excited because we know that the future is through the 19s. So when we start practicing with the men, we'll have the 19s. So our trainings will probably be 26 to 30 guys deep, and it will be with adequate players that are all within our system, that we're looking to groom, to develop for the future. And I think that's how we can become sustainable, because we're never going to be a team that's made up of 18 college players from 18 different universities. We're going to have guys that have ties and connections here to the town. And whether they come to FSU or they went to high school here or they played soccer here, we see that we needed a route, a pathway, so we could always make sure we had players to sustain the level we want to play at. And that's why the 19s were created. And this will be the first year we get to kind of symbiotically use them together for each other's benefit.
Awesome. Yeah, super cool. Love the production and just love the ability to have the U19s into the picture. And those, for the layman, that's, of course, under 19. So most of these kids are going to be high school age and participating in high school age leagues, Coach, of course, as you know. But going forward, I know you touched on the differences, obviously playing next level yourself in the collegiate game. What is the big difference? You talked about some of the U19s, because some of your stars are sophomores in high school, 15, 16 years old, Coach, for the U19 team. What's the difference between the U19 game and the senior team game, for lack of a better term, or that kind of next level collegiate? Is it the physicality? Is it the speed? Is it the mental? Is it the tactics? Or is it kind of a combination of everything?
It's a combination of everything, but I think one of the more important and overlooked aspects is the mental side of it. So most of these kids on our U19 team, because of our area, they've never been on a soccer team where they're challenged to lose a starting spot. If they aren't consistent in training, nobody's going to play above them. And it's just because of our area and how youth soccer is modeled, how we group kids in single ages. And we try to mold them in this one box, where I think about popcorn, right? All these kernels are in a bag in the same heat, in the same environment, but they all pop at different times. So it's hard to believe that the best kids are always going to be the oldest kids. So to see that you can have the best kids be all these different ages, and you couple them together, a lot of these kids are now on a team for the first time in their life, to where they might not start, or they might not play in the game, or they're for a better term, the weakest player on the team. And they've never had to deal with that. At the senior level, most of those guys have played in college or had a different experience where they've been in that environment. And they understand that instead of being demotivated or pouting about it or feeling entitled about it, they use that as motivation to get better and to not be the worst player on the team and to pass somebody. So that guy's the worst player. And then they pass somebody else. And that mindset and that attitude to bring day in and day out is what you need at the collegiate level or higher. And some of these kids, they haven't been in that environment. So when they do go to college or they are playing on a men's team, sometimes they don't have the tools, the mental strength, the problem solving, critical thinking skills to get through that moment. And with these 19s, we are putting them in that environment. And so they are getting a taste of it. But that's the biggest difference between what these youth players are going through at a high school level, a youth soccer level, they're exposed to, and now they're all of a sudden with guys who are just as good as they are. So that's the biggest difference. And when the kid learns how to do that, then he can let his tactical knowledge take over, or his technical ability, or his size, or his speed, or his strengths that make him the individual that he is in the game.
Very cool. Yeah, I like that. And you always have, it seems, Coach, a gritty club, one way or another, to grind and fight through that. And the highest competition, of course, prevailing in that and molding the best out of those players. So really cool. And it really seems like you are a guy who embraces the grind and you're process oriented, and all the things that kind of fall into that. You can see play out in the teams, and really cool to see and exciting to watch, man. And I love the popcorn analogy too, Coach, because that's true. You can get those players in a 3-4 year span, and you look at a player 18 months ago, and then all of a sudden turns into a rock star. So super cool to see them hopefully go through this U19 process and go on the senior team and do some big things. But Coach, I mean, you set it up perfectly. Master of the segue as well as the soccer field. Talk about the U19s. Obviously, the maiden voyage in the fall, and that was a little kind of a fire from the hip situation. Tell me how that went, and then going forward into the spring, how we're looking and what we can expect and the cool things you guys are doing at the U19 level. Because, Coach, the one thing I love about your guys' program is it's so much more than soccer. Spill the beans for us here for the U19s.
So yeah, the fall was a kind of pilot program. We didn't fully know what to expect, and a lot of people took a leap of faith with us, and we're very thankful for that. But we wanted to provide what I've been talking about, an environment where these kids are challenged, and on the field, off the field. We have a saying, and it's iron sharpens iron. And we ask every player to be iron every day, whether they are the weakest player on the team, because every team has to have one of those. But instead of looking at it that way, we still need you to be iron so we can all get better. And so we have that mindset with them. And so the fall was a success because of all the different things we were able to do. We played 5 different collegiate teams and exposed kids to those types of environments. We got different tours of different universities from different levels, from NCAA to Division II to junior college to NAIA. So we provided experiences where these kids are now playing collegiate players instead of high school players. And a college coach is going to be more impressed with a guy who's playing against his own players and he's standing out than a kid who's playing other kids his same age who may not be college level players. So we're putting them in that environment, and then we're showing them what it's going to be like if they go to college or beyond, to where there's got to be focus put on your nutrition. So we had nutrition specialists where we'd meet with them, and they'd give us different tips of the ways we should be eating on a game day as opposed to an off day, or our training day and our recovery. And then we had the FSU sports psychology department. We have 2 master students that are with us full time. So they're at every training, they're at every game, they're accessible to all of our players, and they're helping us deal with that mental side. And we touched on that with the difference between the 19s and the senior team is that mentality. Mm-hmm. And some of these kids have never been taught that that can be a tool. It can be a tool negatively or positively. So Dylan and Caleb from FSU are doing an awesome job with the guys. Chris even ran a session on self-branding and marketing to help these kids promote what it is they want people to see from them. Mm-hmm. And in that meeting, I learned more about marketing than I did in the one class I took in college. I was like, pretty good, Chris. So we're providing something totally different to these kids than your traditional youth soccer route. So moving forward this spring, I think that people saw that what we were doing had a little bit of merit if you wanted something more. Mm-hmm. And now we have people that want to play for us, and now we don't have spots. And I got a list of 4 players that don't have somewhere to play, but they want to. Mm-hmm. So I think they see what we're doing, and they like the challenge and the environment that we're creating for our players, and they want it in. So the spring moving forward is exciting. We have a whole new season where we'll play a 6-game season with the New Orleans Jesters, Panama City Roots, and Southern State Stars. We'll play a home and away. We'll play a semifinal, and if we're good enough, we'll play a final. If we're super lucky, we'll host a semifinal and a final here in town, and maybe we're NPSL U19 champs. And I think that's a realistic goal for us this spring. We saw what it was like in the fall. We were really close. Panama City was a really good team. They had some game-changing players, but we are a different team than we were in the fall as well. So just getting excited and seeing the guys at training these last 2.5 weeks, the way that they work and the way that they're getting after it, and the intensity of the sessions and the IQ of the players is rising session after session. So they're retaining this information, and they're showing that they can apply it in meaningful scenarios, which is showing me growth and development from my standpoint as a coach of, okay, so we're doing something right now we can keep going.
Very cool. Very cool. That's all awesome, Coach. It's great to see the kind of everything that you're building, all encompassing, to get these kids in front of colleges, because who knows, they could pick up some kind of partial, some kind of full ride down the line, or like you said, just providing those exposure and giving these kids opportunities. And it's just so much more than just going and getting a good group of soccer players and playing other good soccer players, right? And it's just great to see you guys doing some big things. Really excited, man, and hopefully we see some of these U19s. I'm ready for them come April, May, Coach. It'll be fun to watch. As far as going forward, so back kind of to the senior team, Coach, I want to press you a little bit. So what are some, I guess, areas of the team, and you can go kind of position-wise or more mentality-wise or kind of general approach, however you kind of want to answer this. But what are the biggest areas of improvement in order to get results, and this is tailored towards the senior team, that you want to see in 2022?
So, I mean, our biggest loss that we haven't found that full replacement yet would be the goalkeeper. Mm-hmm. Losing Grant Wallum. He was great goalkeeper, kept us in many games just alone. So that's the area where we're actively looking that we know that has to be a position you don't get wrong. Mm-hmm. It's got to be someone that is solid enough that they're not losing you games. Now, we're not expecting them to win us games, but just keep us in games. Besides that, it's probably going to go to a center back partner with Joe Peralta, our returning NPSL, All-South, All-Conference player. Mm-hmm. To find that partner for him. Cam Earls is moving on in life and getting married, and I believe he's having a baby, and he's doing a grad student and coaching in college. So losing him, that makes me, like you almost said, the attitude or the mentality. That's the type of player that we're going to need to replace. And Cam was so versatile to where he could play center back, and he could play forward, and he can play 6, and he could do them all at a game-changing level. Mm-hmm. And that's unique to find at at the collegiate level or higher, where you have a player that can influence the game from multiple positions. Most of the time, they're kind of single ponies where, hey, I can do this, but he's someone that we got to replace. And then I'm looking for the type of striker that I like. I like a striker that can stretch a defense, is direct oriented, can play with his back to goal, and can link up. And he doesn't have to be your 6'2" prototypical type of number 9. So there are a few options that came through the tryouts. 1 or 2 of the 19s is growing and developing at a rate that it's not too far-fetched to think he's inside of the 18 most times throughout the season. So those are the kind of areas that we know we immediately need. Playing in this league for a year, being a club for 3 years now, we're seeing that we need an identity. And through the 19s, I'm able to start implementing that identity. And now when the senior team starts and we start to go over the identity of what we're truly believing in and trying to do as a team and as a club, I think it's going to give us a better chance to be successful. So those are the kind of areas we've seen. We've increased our coaching staff for this season. We're bringing on 2 new coaches. Looking at these other teams and how they operate, they're at a professional level to where they're almost, hey man, that's the guy who works with my goalkeepers, and he's defensively oriented, so he's working with my back 4 and a holding mid, and this guy's working with strikers, and this guy's just my overall. So we're looking to add staff so we can kind of be a little bit more intimate with the players. Mm-hmm. And a little bit more hands-on coaching in the regard of what we want from them in more specific moments.
For sure. Very cool. Very cool. And obviously would help instill that identity. Coach, so obviously you talked about the new coaches. Just give us a rundown of new and returning coaches, just for the people who don't know and maybe casual fans of TSC, just to break them down. Who are they, where they are, maybe a brief kind of resume. Don't want to go too long. I know you could talk about your guys for a while, but just to kind of give us an idea of their soccer experience, because we know we have some coming back, and like you said, 2 new guys joining onto staff. So exciting things coaching-wise, I'm sure, for you to increase that coaching community within TSC.
So I'm still waiting on 1 assistant coach to get confirmation if he's allowed to coach. So that's something I'm hopeful that can work out, and he's a big part of what we do. So it'd be a huge loss not to have him for silly reason, whatever. Mm-hmm. But coming back will be Coach Manuel Rico, who's the Florida High boys coach. He runs the Level Up League in Havana, the men's league. He runs Level Up, the indoor soccer place. So someone who's very involved in soccer in the area, went to high school here, played in college. So he's got a good background. And he's just great with the kids and the men. So really good demeanor. Coach Joe McDowell from Thomas University. He'll be helping out in a more fulfilled role to where he'll be more involved this year. His schedule will allow a little bit more involvement. And he just brings a different mindset and mentality and experiences of what he's been through growing up in England and being at the IMG Academy and getting to play in college and now being a collegiate coach. So that helps us identify some players from the local areas, from Thomas University. A coach who was an assistant coach with us our very first year, Tony Voiles. Tony was an amazing coach. Tony's son, Noah, played on the team in the first year. So Tony got to coach his son. It was a really cool thing to where I hope one day I'm blessed enough to get to coach my kid on a level that's beyond high school or something like that. Mm-hmm. And maybe even be playing with him if I can still walk at that age. So Tony will be back helping us in a limited capacity when he's available. But Tony's an A licensed coach. He's got experience coaching in college. He's been a professional player, played at Thomas University, played at AUM, played professionally in Iceland. So another guy with a background that gives different experience to everybody. And then we're going to add I guess you could call him a player coach. He's been with our U19s all season, all fall. He is at the trainings and he trains with us, but he also runs sessions for the guys. So we're also not just developing players. I'm developing these coaches and giving them chances to coach and get experiences so he can develop. And his name's Danny Perez, and he played with our first team last year. He played in a few U19 games with us in the fall, and he'll play with us again in the spring, and he'll lead into the men. So having a staff like that that's totally involved and around and soccer oriented, and that's not talking about the behind the scenes staff of the medical staff and Alan, who did the strength and conditioning last year, and these little things that we're helping provide the guys, but just excited about our staff and them coming back and looking forward to what we can do together.
Very cool. Very cool. And yeah, kind of circling back, really cool to hear about the improvements and the different areas you guys are focusing on. And yeah, can't forget about Alan. I know he was out there beginning of practice. He was trying to bury those guys early before you get to the tactical stuff, Coach. He wasn't pulling any punches, man.
No, he was not.
Yeah, that was good to see. Yeah, Coach, but going back, what is the identity, or what are you guys trying to establish as the identity, or with this group of players in a key situation? What is that identity that you guys are trying to build that you referenced a couple minutes ago?
So I think you touched on it earlier, where you said just a staple is most of my teams are gritty, or they're fighters and they're competitors. And I'm a big believer that you got to compete no matter what. Even if you're going to lose, you got to compete to not lose as much. And there's something to be said for that. And so in players, I look for that mentality. And I think that mentality has to come before the other things, where maybe, hey, I have a calmness, I have a creativity to me, or I have a defensive mind. I think we've got the mindset and the attitude and the identity of being gritty. And I think that's the standard now. And I don't think that becomes an identity. I think that becomes a statement. So I think now we're going to look for identity. And I'll have to kind of look at the men and see what we're capable of. But looking at the 19s, we're looking to try to keep the ball a lot more and not be so direct and look to take a more pragmatic approach instead of always maybe trying to hit a home run or throw that Hail Mary. And I think through that, we're going to be able to express individual players' strengths, whether it's 1v1 on the ball, or whether it's the ability to see a pass, or the ability to open up the game with a certain type of a pass. But I think it's important that we have a staple, and you know what you're going to get from us, but then you also know that they have the ability to do this. And it's been fun to start to grow that and develop that with the U19s, because it's brand new. It is very, very in the incubation stage, but having the 19s be connected so closely with the men, it's just going to blend really well when they're together.
Absolutely. Like you said, making both of those better, feeding into each other, feeding the beast as a whole for TSC, Coach. So really, really cool to see going forward there, and excited for the next product. So, Coach, as we kind of take another transitional turn, and this is one I'll set you up for. You know it's coming, but Coach is going to be pressing a little bit. So, obviously, when we're talking to Coach, people said, hey, you got to get Coach and get him to answer where we are on some of these guys. Because with semi-pro, it's kind of tough to pin them down or where they would see. And then all of a sudden, your team shows up, and this is who you got. Obviously, as coaches, you know, and you've been talking and having these conversations, right? But, Coach, let's go through. Let's play a little name game. You give me a percentage confidence that they will be returning. Obviously, if you know they're not coming back, that's going to be a 0. And if you want to play a little coy, Coach, and, feel free. This is your time. These are your numbers. And if you're trying to get somebody, maybe a little recruiting here or trying to come back or some other things, see as fit as you want to give these percentages. But obviously you touched on a couple ones, not to focus on the losses, but let's start with Grant and a couple of the other guys that are going to be zeros. Who's on that list?
So Grant Wallum, Sammy Frederick, Cam Earls, and then Justin Laird. So he just has recently had a baby and is transitioning into that part of life. And we'll miss him. He was good, but he still wants to be involved and around because he's got experiences again that most people don't have. So for him to be able to come and share those with the U19s, it's just something that they can learn from and grow. So he's the one. Those are the four main ones that in my head just stick out. And
absolutely. Obviously, one of your lead attackers, and you talk about pretty much the entire back end of the team, save Joey P, is getting kind of cleared out, Coach. So a little bit of a transition there. All right, let's go down the list. Let's talk about one of the more dynamic offensive players' percentages. Cy Fontenot, affectionately known as Cousin Cy here on the podcast, Coach.
So I would probably say Cy 50-60% the last time I talked to him. He sounded like he may want to go try to get on somewhere else. And we do understand that we're going to hit a point with some players where maybe their level exceeds us. Mm-hmm. And we're not going to try to hoard those players or keep them here. Mm-hmm. We're going to promote them and celebrate them. And if they can move on to bigger and better things, and we just want to be a platform for them to do that if that's what they want. Mm-hmm. So that might be what Cy does. If Cy wants to come back here, he'll always have a home, and he definitely is a dynamic, game-changing type player for sure.
Absolutely. Let's talk about the captain, Johnny Fitzgerald.
100%.
Yeah.
I speak with Johnny pretty regularly, and he was the first guy. I just wanted to make sure that, hey, we're getting Johnny back. He's someone that you can build around in terms of the experiences and what he's gotten from his youth soccer career to now playing at the University of Akron. Mm-hmm. What a better role model for these young kids, right? To see what's possible and what's capable, whether you're from Tallahassee or LA or Miami. And it's great to have him around these guys. And he is a true professional in the terms of how he lives his life, his leadership and his traits on and off the field are just second to none. He's a great guy for these kids.
There you go. Well, great to hear. Well, let's keep rolling down the list. Another guy playing college ball, Drew Daunt.
So 100%. Talked with him the other day, just waiting for his schedule of when he'll be home. So he'd be one that comes back with Johnny, where it'll be like maybe the first week of May. So there's a chance where those kids aren't in our first game, maybe even our second game. Right. And we'll do with the 19s, and this is why we helped create the 19s, so we don't have to postpone games and not play for the first 2 weeks of the season waiting for our college guys to get back. Mm-hmm. We're going to give these 19s chances and experiences to learn, grow, and develop from. But yeah, no, Drew's coming back. We're excited about that for sure.
Awesome. Good stuff. What about Corey Davis, Coach?
So he is looking for an internship. Mm-hmm. So depending on an internship, he'll be here for 3 weeks or 2 months.
Okay.
And he's been actively training, working out up there. So it'd be much nicer to have him for 2 months and 3 weeks, but we'll take whatever we can get from him. And we just hope it all works out in terms of his bigger picture and what he wants.
Absolutely. Because he's still up at Howard, right? Kind of that mid-Atlantic
Yes.
area. Okay.
Yes,
Awesome.
sir.
Sweet, sweet. Okay, let's keep going. Mateus.
100%.
Awesome.
That another type of player like Johnny, that he gives you the creativity, the 1v1, the game-changing moments that can get a crowd off of its feet, that can get the crowd loud, that gives your whole team momentum, and it gets the stadium into the game. And not many players have that ability. Now, some of them try it, and it doesn't work out too often, but he truly has that ability. So he's a entertaining player to watch, but he's not entertainment value. He has an end product. He's not out there just doing moves to do moves. He's being entertaining to try to score a goal or create a goal, which I find exciting. And he's the type of player I like, with his directness, his ability to involve other people and to do it himself.
Absolutely. And he's one of those gritty guys, Coach. You talk about that kind of grit to him. Definitely comes off, at least from outside the sidelines, as a very gritty player. He's definitely got that edge to him.
Yep, he does.
Very cool. Let's keep going down. One of your Lincoln boys, are we going to see David Monroe back in the picture, or did he fall in love with the beach down there, Coach?
I'd say that's probably a less than a 50% chance.
Yeah.
And who could blame an 18-year-old kid going to college with palm trees and the beach and South Florida, right? I mean, so I wouldn't anticipate him coming. I think down there he was living life, right? Working, going to college, seeing how that day-to-day life is. I don't think soccer was something he's been doing. And I think it's hard if you don't play regularly to get better and then to step in at this level and pick it right up.
Okay.
But if anybody could do it, it might be him and his just incredible athleticism and that uniqueness he does have about him.
There you go. Too true. Okay, let's go back to the defense. You talk about your all-conference, all-region, MPSL, kind of stalwart of the defense, Joey P.
100%. Spoke with him the other day, just reconfirming. I know he does have 3 kids like I do, so it's a handful to where I'm always double checking, like, hey, are you sure you can make it? And his wife's a saint because she does support him very, very much and let him do a lot of stuff that, I mean, it helps us. So he's in, and we're excited about that because he's been here since day one, and it's kind of just that unassuming player that just is there and is annoying. And as a striker, those are the worst ones to play against. And you just are wondering why can't I get by him, or why is he always there, or what? Yeah. And so it's exciting to know that he's going to be back and helping us grow, especially with these young kids. So in the fall, he played in a few U19 games with us. So for him to be able to be next to a 16-year-old kid, helping him and teaching him how to play the game with a man is awesome for the 19s and another perk of what we do.
Very cool. Very cool. Okay, Coach, that's my short list, all right, of ones we had to get an answer on. Give me some guys either that are locks or that you feel confident about. Let's set the floor at 75. Rattle off some guys, and you can go into it as in depth. I know you're running short on time. 75 plus that you feel good about.
My first one is Bennett Mitchell.
Okay.
So he was playing right back for us last year. He broke his foot in the Panama City game.
Brutal.
And And at that time, he might have been our best player. He was our most exciting player at that time, and he was doing it from right back.
Mm-hmm.
And he was attacking more than most of our attacking players. And I kind of want to have that identity where we're not afraid to let our outside backs bomb forward and either underlap, overlap, depending on what the situation calls for. And he fits that position perfectly. Mm. He's really an attacking player, but you put him at right back, and now he's an attacking right back. And you talk about someone who's got a little bit of a fight and nastiness to him. That he's a tiny guy in that sense, but he's as mean and as nasty as they come. So I'm super excited about having him back and him being healthy. And he's been playing regularly with Rico out at the Level Up Indoor.
Okay.
So he's getting back and he's getting fit. So I'm excited about him. Christian Wanuck, blonde, left foot, left back. He played the senior year at Flagler this past season.
Okay.
Graduated, and he's back in Tallahassee. And he'll play with us this spring. And just another one that's pretty consistent. Mm-hmm. You know what you're getting from him. And he's a kid that I coached in high school. My first year at Lincoln, he was a senior. And man, our team was good. My first and second year at Lincoln, I had some really good players. But yeah, so he was on it, and he's coming back. And I just knowing that you have a college player, a level of a college guy who will be here from the get go. Mm-hmm. So we're not like waiting for college to end to get him. Mm-hmm. So having that kind of experience right away is going to be nice.
Excellent. Anybody else in that threshold, Coach, you feel pretty confident about? Maybe not necessarily a lock, but like we said, kind of that, if it was an injury thing, you'd be looking at like a probable designation.
I'm not looking at the list right now, but I mean, in all fairness, there's about 3 of those U19s who last year they played with the men's team. And this year I think they can do it again and maybe even contribute in a positive way. So where last year we were gaining minutes and experience for some of these kids, where we knew, hey, we're going to give this kid 20 minutes, and if he makes an impact, that's awesome, but it's not expected. And almost like, hey, let's throw him in the deep end. Let's see if he swims, and we don't think he's going to swim, but let's see if he treads water. And then let's see if he can doggy paddle by the end, right? And that was happening last year with these young kids. And this year, because of that, these young kids are actually going to be able to jump in, and you're going to see them swim. And you're going to see them do something like, oh, wow. So I'm excited about some of these 19s that we're going to be able to showcase that, man, look at what we got here.
What do you think of as far as U19s or that kind of age range, or those kind of guys either that were on the fall team or going to be on the spring team? If you had to pick a number, and I know there's kind of wildly, but let's just talk practice squad, right? That kind of number that you're looking to carry on a weekly basis. Are we looking like 5, 6 U19s, or what kind of anticipated one? If you had to guess, I know you're firing from the hip, and I'm not holding you to this.
If I had to guess, I'd say there's probably 8.
Okay. Oh, nice.
There's probably 8.
So the boys can ball.
No, yes, absolutely. And I have 2 kids that are. So to play in the U19 league, you have to be 16.
Okay.
And these kids are 15. And they would be starters. I mean, they're good. And they're not even eligible to play with the 19s or the men yet. Because you got to be 16 to play with the men.
Right.
So I got these players that can't even play yet, that when they become eligible at 16, they're gonna immediately jump over the 18-year-old. Yep. They're gonna jump over the 19-year-old because of they're eligible and they're just better. So I'm going to have 8 of them that truly can train with us and not drop the level of training. And if they're out there for the right reasons, then they're going to improve and they're going to get better from those experiences with the men. So that's that's a realistic number. And out of those 8, like I said, 3 to 4 of them probably be playing in some games throughout the year.
There you go. Well, awesome to hear, Coach. And, Coach, I know you're running on time, but I don't want to feel you left out, and I want to open the mic to you. Anything that you look about either with the club, the organization, U19, senior team coming up, excitement, just I'm tossing it to you. Anything you got that you want to spill the beans or just share or kind of relay to us that you would like to let me or the people know?
Just that I'm thankful that everybody is supportive and everybody's kind of behind what we're trying to do. And I thank you and Chris and the board and all these people who really don't get any credit for what they do. And we don't do this for money. We're not making anything that you would write home about. I mean, it's not life changing. It's not even sustainable to make a living off of. So it's not why we do this. And to have so many people though that are like that in the same thing is such a unique thing that I would want and I wish more people knew about us. I talk to these middle school boys that don't even know we have a soccer team. We have who, what? And as a kid, I had those types of role models that I grew up in DeLand, so I could go watch Stetson University play. And I mean, it's Division I soccer. And as a kid, 9, 10, 11 years old, those are heroes. And I knew that. And I would see a game and I wish more people knew about the experiences that we're trying to provide for the people who love soccer like we love it. So anyway, we could get that message out where more people can learn about us and celebrate. And hey, there's probably people who want to help out that feel the same way we do that don't even know about us yet. But I am thankful that we do have the people that we have and the support and the community and everyone that is involved. So I just want to take this moment to thank all of those people and probably my wife, because she's probably sacrificing more than anybody raising 3 kids, and she just went through ACL surgery. So she is a saint, and she supports me, and she's my biggest fan. And she knows the passion I have for this, and she allows me to do this. So I am so thankful for her and for that, because without her, I mean, I wouldn't be able to do this and truly fulfill my dream and my passion. And she allows me to do that. So thank her and thank everybody who helps this organization be sustainable.
Very cool. Very cool. Well, absolutely. Well, thank you, Coach, as we're giving out thank yous for taking some time. Awesome, as always. Love your energy, love your honesty, and love all the input that you bring. Thanks for coming back for another year to coach the boys. Really excited to look forward to the summer and even in the spring, starting out here this Saturday. Of course, I know your U19s are kicking off here, getting ready for the NPSL play. But, Coach, once again, Coach Bruno of the Tallahassee Soccer Club, the senior team, joining us today. Thanks so much again, Coach.
And thank you, Andrew.
All right, and welcome back. Obviously got a chance to talk to Coach Bruno. Fantastic, as always. Passionate, Trent. Passionate, insightful. And glad he's the man atop the team. Always great to hear from Coach Bruno. Trent, well, let's break it down a little bit. So there's some interesting conversations. Obviously, you know, the team is of the boys, the men. They're going to be representing the squad, the players. So I think that's the biggest takeaway we can kind of break down, because Coach really spelled everything else out for us that we needed to know about the squad or what's going on, what's good. And so, Trent, let's talk a little bit about the players involved. Obviously, happy trails. We don't want to focus on the negatives too much, but you can't ignore the big losses, and especially the way they're concentrated on the position. Talk about some of the guys that aren't not coming back for the 2022 campaign. They're going to be severely missed, but serve TSC very well.
Yeah, one of our personal favorite players, Justin Laird, the O'Reilly Wildcat from Kentucky, man. What a great player. What a great mentor for a lot of these younger players on the team. He will certainly be missed. Just has his hands all over Tallahassee, working with Tallahassee Orthopedics. So super thankful for him. He said he's still going to try to be a part of the team, like Bruno said, and be around and help out. And, he's just everything you want in a soccer player. And so best of luck in the future, Justin. So we'll be saying goodbye to him, as well as Sammy Friedrich and Grant Wallem. Those are two stalwarts on our defense last year. Sammy was a great center back, had that incredible headed goal at the Gene. And then, obviously Grant Wallem, we talked about him earlier and all those saves that he made, but that was game in and game out, dude. Seriously, he kept us in so many games throughout the entire season. And if it wasn't for Grant Wallem, who knows how last season could have ended up. And that's, no shade at anyone in particular at all, but just praising how great Grant was and how much he did for this club and for that defense and for keeping those balls out of the net, man. So he's going to be missed. And then honestly, one of our favorite players that we've ever had, Cam Earls, man, just a player that truly could do anything you needed. Hey, Cam, we're a little short staffed back at center back. You mind dropping back? Sure, coach. Hey, Cam, we need a goal. It's late in the game. You mind pushing up? Sure, coach. Anything that you needed, that's what he was there for. The pride of Piedmont from Tifton, Georgia, Cam Earls. You'll be missed too, brother. So best of luck, guys. Thanks for being a part of the club. Thanks for letting us cover you. It was a pleasure.
Yeah, absolutely, man. It's just brutal, dude. Because the first three guys off that list, right? All D1 guys. You had Justin, former at Kentucky. You had Grant and Sammy, who locked it down at Wofford. And then also you talked about Cam Earls, who basically holds every single record here now that Piedmont has, it seems like, both academically and on the soccer field. Just a total baller there. So all the best for him. Of course, young budding family. So congrats. But yeah, man, you look at it, a lot of these guys are concentrated defensively. You had Earls, who was dropping back. You had Friedrich as your classic center back week in, week out. And then, of course, you talked about Wallem. Obviously, can't discount Justin on the front line. But you've got essentially the whole back line that we saw last year, save Joey P, is on the way out. Thoughts on that, just the concentration of those? Is that a concern for you going into the 2022 season?
So I actually think that the defense can be viewed as a strong point going forward, even though we're losing some of our key players and the goalie's still kind of up in the air. We're getting a lot of players back on the defensive line that actually played a lot of minutes for us early on throughout the season. Bennett Mitchell would have played all year had he not gotten injured, which that was very tough to watch. But, he's coming back. He's hungry. He wants to give TSC some more. So I'm excited for that defensive line going forward, man. What about you?
Yeah, absolutely. You heard Coach. He was arguably, early in that season, one of the most explosive players getting forward. Also, it's looking like, as we kind of get into more the rumor mill, been told Mike Zamora is looking good to come back onto the team. He, of course, was a big factor. A great switcher of the ball, would also push up and kind of go with those cross-field passes that can open things up from the defense as we look to push things forward. So I think that's going to help the back line as well. But, I mean, you can't discount the big three that we're losing. Of course, Joey P, all conference, all year, NPSL national team member. Of course, being represented, so he's going to be back for another year, and it's kind of a good transition of guys that are locked in. He's going to jump into those category. Of course, Joey P. and Drew Daunt, who will also probably participate on that back line. Trent, he's coming back from Belmont Abbey. He's going to be going at it. But we have a couple other guys returning that are locked in, Trent. I know the big two will get away from the defensive conversation, because I know you like to talk about some of these offensive attacking players. What are some two other ones that are locked in that Coach says 100%, we got them, they're looking good for this season, that way they will be on the Battle Lions come summer?
Yeah, for sure, Jupe. So we got Johnny Fitzgerald, the Akron Zip, and I actually just saw a video that he posted on his own Instagram the other day. He was doing one of these training drills where he was just kicking the ball. It was like a light would flash and he would have to turn. And he was just showing how quickly he can process, seeing a pass and getting it off and receiving one and turning and finding somebody else. So if we're getting Johnny Fitzgerald back, who's, now the captain. And actually, we totally forgot to mention that we lost our main man, Jacob Schmoker,
Yeah.
the former captain. So that's another player that will not be returning. But
Mhm.
all that to say, we'll have Johnny back. He'll be wearing the captain band, and I'm excited to have him. And we've also got the 2021 Big Ben Player of the Year, Mateus Bittencourt, man. And he really came on strong at the end of the year and showed what he can do with the ball at his feet. Passing, finding the open player, switching the ball. You talked about Mike, but Mateus can switch a ball too, man, and he can rip him. So I'm excited to see Mateus and Johnny back out there, and I think those are going to be two players that are very key in the attack going forward for the 2022 season.
Yeah, absolutely. And you heard Coach talk about the excitement there. Obviously, Mateus, such a creative, enthusiastic, a player that really gets the crowd fired up and productive at that. Not just like trying to break people down and do nothing, but make it into an attacking threat. And we saw that later in the season. Had a couple beautiful balls and setups there. And of course, the Tallahassee Messi, man. Johnny Fitzgerald, the orchestrator, the maestro in the midfield, the conductor, if you will, really takes his team to a whole nother level and is the nucleus and really, Johnny's going to take this team as far as it'll go. Not that he's the only player, but he's a great central figure there, and he can really take this team next level. So excited to see what he does. And then also some of the potentials, some of these on the fence, some of these here or there. So we'll go to the maybe / the rumors. We're going to group them all together, Trent. What are some whispers you've been hearing? Of course, some of these fringe guys that could be coming back, both that Coach talked about or just kind of in general that we've heard buzzings through conversations off air with the powers that be within the organization, as well as some social media. I know you're always scouring the social media
Oh,
because
I'm always lurking.
we want to know what's next, man. But what are your thoughts on some potentials or some guys that we could see, or maybe some rumors, guys you're feeling good about?
For sure. So, cousin Cy, pod favorite, broad favorite, Tallahassee favorite, he will be possibly coming back. So, we actually saw a post the other day from Levi Nasimba, who is
Uh-oh.
another one of our favorite players. Yeah, I know. Old Lev Dog. So, he posted a picture of him and Cy with his arm around him after one of them scored, it definitely looked like. So, could be a little foreshadowing that they might be reuniting this season. But, talk about two players in the attack that can really change things. Man, those guys were incredible for us last year. And then you also got Kari Davis coming back from Howard. So that was a player who didn't get to play a ton last year, but whenever he did play, I mean, his impact was immediate. He would come up, even if he was an outside back, he was winning headers on throw-ins. He was winning crosses in the box and just always going forward. He can win any ball. He can drop back. I mean, he's just an athlete. He's an incredible player. I can't wait to watch him again this season and just excited to see Kara Davis again back for TSC.
Absolutely. Yeah, and just to kind of piggyback off that. So Coach was probably saying, because obviously interviews with Coach was a little dated now by the time you hear this podcast to the proud listening audience. So Coach was saying like 50, 60% for Cy, but I've heard through the rumor mill we may be looking at more of a 75, 80%. I personally, since time has gone on, hearing the rumors, am a little bit more confident. Nothing locked in. Also, on the other side of that, you talked about Levy. There's some international clearance issues that we have to make sure we check up on Levy, but things are trending in a positive direction for Levy as well. So that would be a baller if those two guys could come back. You talk about Kari. So Kari obviously playing at Howard, so he's in game shape. He's up to game speed. He is doing a couple different internships. He's got a lot going on up there at Howard in a positive manner academically. Super bright kid. And so he will be back in Tallahassee, but Bruno is saying that it's really kind of open-ended from the interview. It could be just a week or two that he's back, or it could be a couple months. So it's really varied, but obviously undeniable explosiveness and talent. You saw him even in severely limited minutes of what Kari Davis brings to the table, dude. And so I'm hoping to see more of him. And obviously, selfishly and for the team, would like to see him more. But obviously, he's got bigger things at play. And here in the FPSL, you have all these things that this is not necessarily a priority for these guys because they got life going, man. So this is a sidebar, so we're obviously rooting for the success big time of Kari in general. But we're excited to be back having him in some capacity for TSC because he's a big-time baller, man, and we saw that even in limited action in 2021. Any other thoughts or any other rumors or reactions from the personnel side based on what Coach told us in kind of that numbers game that we went through? A little fun exercise. And like you said, he went after, man. He didn't really hold any punches.
Yeah, no, just excited to see how many of these players that he mentioned, that they brought back for, other tryouts and stuff that actually make that initial 18-man roster that are there with us throughout the entire season, even if they're not on the roster at the end of the year, still involved in training, still kind of on that practice squad, for lack of a better terms, if you will, to be ready to be called up at any time. So, yeah, no, I'm just excited to see all these young cats and even some of the old cats. Like you said, we had Justin Laird, 27, 28 years old out there balling last year.
Yeah.
So players of all ages, I'm excited to see represent Tallahassee this season, too.
Yeah, you got it. Yeah, you got day one, Joey P coming back as well. I heard Corey Osgood's looking back. Good trending for him as well. Like you said, new tryout guys we could just see on the practice squad, which is probably the top 25 to 30. Obviously, you can only carry 18 on a game day, but it is not an open and shut 18 by any means. Of course, so whoever's the hottest or trending upwards or getting better minutes and who Bruno think would be a good play for that week is in the pool, right? The player pool that we'll kind of reference, top 25, 30. We'll probably see at least 3 to 5 new guys. We'll probably see between 6 and 8 of the U19 guys, some of the young guns that may not have been old enough or in the system last year to go for it. And Bruno was saying in the interviews, like you heard it, probably 3 will get minutes this season and be in the top 18 and be contributing to the team in a game type of way. But we'll see a lot of those guys. So we'll see some new faces, Trent. We wanted to know about the guys that we didn't know about, and we'll get those so far this season. So we'll probably have at least half a dozen guys that we'll be talking about that weren't there last year, which is always great and we're really excited about. So I'm excited for the new version, the 2022 magic of TSC roster-wise. But anything else here on the player pool based on what Coach told us?
Nah, man, that should be it.
All right, well, let's keep this train on rolling. Come back for a little U19 talk.
And welcome back to Tallahassee Talk. We are going to go ahead and give you guys a couple updates here on the U19s. They've been getting into some action, playing a couple games here, actually locally in Tallahassee this past weekend as we are recording this. So, Jupe, why don't you go ahead and tell us about these recent fixtures we've had there in the A50?
Yeah, for sure, man. Big time stuff. Obviously, in a abbreviated league with the U19, so just a 4-team league, but rolling. Currently, as we record, in first place. Out of the 6 games that we played, 4-1-1, so only 1 loss. It was to Southern States at home recently, but could end up as a number 1 seed or a number 2. So regardless, gearing up for the playoffs in the U19 season. Most recently, clinching a first or second seed after a 3-2 victory out of Godby High School against the Roots. But a fantastic season for the U19s, man. Very impressed, actually very surprised. I did not really know what the structure in U19s is always tough, but Coach Bruno said first practice, he's like, man, there's something special about this year and this group of guys. And so he felt really good about the spring team of the U19s. And I think the results show that. We're in a very competitive conference with great programs on the youth level when you talk about the Roots, Southern States, and Jesters. So I did not expect to go undefeated by any means in the regular season. And you want a little challenge, right, Trent? And so I was very impressed here. Great position for the playoffs. And we're going to be hosting a first-round playoff game. I hope we can duplicate these results here coming forward for the senior team, Trent. What you think?
Well, you talk about being surprised, Jupe, and I don't mean to rip you, but this is a team that played the Roots in the championship for this U19 league last year. And again, you said only 4 teams, so it is a limited schedule. But they were already in the top half playing for the trophy last season in the fall. So a lot of those kids obviously are still here in the spring, and they've already got more experience from playing throughout their high school season in the winter. And so these are kids that just got a chip on their shoulder. They're ready. They just beat the Roots 3-2 at Godby. So that was kind of a little payback. So like you said, we went ahead and locked down one of those top 2 spots we will be hosting in the playoffs. So I'm excited, man. It's looking real good for the U19s right now.
Yeah, absolutely. And, of course, swept the Jesters, swept the Roots. split with Southern States. So very impressive. It was more about the spread that I was surprised about, because obviously at the top of the conference, of course, in the fall, one of those top two teams, of course, getting through there. But, if Southern States drops against New Orleans, which is the only U19 game remaining here upcoming, a game that we don't have a result on, I believe was rescheduled. We'll get some updated information on that. But like you said, potentially number one seed going into it, and very impressed with the U19 so far. But hopefully, like we said, foreshadowing for great successes. But we got some legit ballers on the U19s and ready to see them go forward. But we had to shout out the youth movement here, Trent, as we go forward. So anything else on these U19s before we keep this train rolling, man?
No, that should be it, man.
Absolutely. So, of course, wanted to shout them out. Fantastic regular season. Still a chance at a conference championship that'll be settled over the next month or so. So we're going down here. This is some more kind of general news going throughout the conference and kind of throughout the league, right? We talked about the U19s. There's a NPSL U19 sanctioned league gearing up. They'll play in the spring here coming up for the NPSL, but over in the East Division. So obviously there's the East, there's the Midwest, the West, and the South. We're currently in the South, but there's a lot of teams in the East, 3 of them, and they're all within our playing range, all within 4 or 5 hours, just like our conference is. But 3 more teams joining the U19 circuit. So whether they're going to be lumped into like a super conference that we're doing, or they're just available for exhibitions or friendlies, or just in the area, we have sanctioned U19 clubs. So now a total of 7 teams, including ourselves, that are within 6 hours driving distance in our little circle here. I think it's huge, Trent. Where are those teams, and what do you think about the growing nature of the U19 league here at the NPSL?
Well, like you said, even if they don't end up in the league that we're playing in, if it's not some sort of merger or anything, at least they'll be around in the area. Preseason, we can play them and stuff, and we can just kind of play them throughout the year if there's ever a reschedule or something, just to stay fresh. And so these are teams, they're about the same quality of players on that team. So we've got the Georgia Revolution. We also have the Georgia Storm. We also have the North Alabama Soccer Coalition. So like you said, these are teams within a 4, 5, 6 hour driving radius, so we can just go play on the weekend. And, these kids are kids, they're predominantly of high school age. And if not, they're in their first year of college. So they still have that school schedule. They're still hitting the books and you can only play on the weekends, but still reasonable driving distance on the weekends. So excited about that. Hopefully we just get a huge league, because then that'll kind of determine, who really is the best team in this area. And so that would always be fun to see if we could get it, all in one league. But we'll take what we can get. At least we, got some more competition in the area.
Yeah, absolutely. And a couple of those schools, of course, or a couple of those teams, I say, as I'm mixing it up with the high schools in the area, are from the northern part of Georgia, so more kind of Atlanta area far north. But then, of course, the North Alabama, all within kind of that sphere. But yeah, they're going to be playing the same time frame as our senior team is, May through July, just because Georgia high schools play in the spring. They kind of got that weird schedule, whereas Florida's got that winter soccer schedule. So it'd be interesting to see what their spring-fall split looks like for the U19s. But yeah, like you said, Trent, just like the MLS or other U.S. leagues do, international teams either getting them on the front end or the back end or mid-season to kind of stay sharp and just get different competition and see those different teams and those different venues. As all these teams have senior teams, so potentially making that connection, of course, with the senior team as well, organizationally, that you see from bottom to the top. But really excited about the youth movement here coming up, and love to add more teams to the mix, man. Local talent represent the Southeast. Of course, they're in the different division, being in the East, just with how the NPSL breaks it up, and team clusters, because they try to keep travel to a minimum. They understand the struggle here for minor league soccer on the lower end of the soccer pyramid here in the U.S. But Trent, really excited for it. So let's transition. We talked about some new teams into the area. New teams joining the South. So the South region, like we said, the NPSL as a whole, over 100 teams. So they'll break it up. It's usually 3 or 4 conferences, per division or per region. So we're in the South, which means we got the Gulf Coast Premier Conference, which is us. We have the Lone Star Conference, which is primarily based out of Texas. We have the Heartland, which is like Oklahoma and some of those other states out in there to the west of Texas. And then we also have the Sunshine, which is Central Florida and South Florida. So Naples, Orlando area, and then a bunch of Miami teams in the mix there. Our division, our region, the South region, has got 4 new teams, Trent, including 2 new ones in the state of Florida. Talk on that a little bit, because this is potentially, once we get out of our conference tournament, these could be our next round opponents. So these would be the teams we would need to beat in order to qualify. Previously mentioned the 2023 U.S. Open Lamar Hunt Cup, the cup that we could end up playing bigger division teams like Orlando City, Tampa Bay Rowdies, other MLS teams, and potentially having a chance at a national cup that incorporates the whole soccer pyramid, all levels of soccer here in the States. This is an open cup, meaning anybody who participates in a sanctioned league like the NPSL can win a national cup, Trent, which is a true trophy. But tell us about this competition, some of the names that could be seen in the regions, or not necessarily the regions, but the cities and location that they could be in, of names that we may want to keep on the radar. We could see us or our conference mates playing down the line.
Yeah, for sure, Jude. So down there in the South region, we actually have Miami Beach FC and Magia FC. So they're in Miami Gardens. These are 2 teams right down there in South Florida, South Beach, man. So, those are 2 teams that, like you said, we potentially match up with later on this season, which would technically be next calendar year, but still within, this upcoming season if we were to advance into the Lamar Hunt.
Mm-hmm.
So we've got those 2 teams. And then out in the Lone Star, we got 2 other teams. That's Corinthians FC out in San Antonio. And then we have the Lubbock Matadors. So those are 2 other teams. So 4 total, like you said, added to the South region here for the NPSL.
Right, yeah, so not directly our conference, but the Sunshine Conference gets 2 more. Both those Miami teams, one Miami Gardens, and the other one, of course, South Beach, Miami proper, being represented there. And then, a couple Texas teams getting in on it too, man. We could potentially see them down the list. Of course, the champion coming from the South, coming from that Lone Star Conference, the Denton Diablos, won the NPSL National Championship last year. So some big-time stuff. Obviously, some successful programs over there. Big-time Texas operation as far as the soccer scene goes. Of course, you can't forget Clint Dempsey, a Texas product coming out of there, Trent, as we talk about the U.S. soccer picture as a whole. So obviously super cool to keep an eye on. And as we kind of go forward, talking about national, as we kind of go big picture soccer here in the States, just an update and just kind of a presence and something to keep in the back of your mind about one of our conference mates, Trent. What are they doing nationally to get on the radar that we could potentially see as soon as 2023, but in the future we'll look forward to, and one of the big draws and things that we root for here for TSC as far as being in the national picture? Talk about a little bit about what our conference mates in southern states have done and did by winning our conference.
Yeah, dude. They actually just played a huge game a few days ago against the Birmingham Legion. That game was on ESPN Plus. So, big time stage, huge audience there, not just in the stadium, but, worldwide. If you're on ESPN Plus, anybody in the world can get on there and watch you. So that's huge just to represent the Gulf Coast Conference, being our league mates and just showing how far a team that plays in our league can go. And so they got to the second round. They actually had advanced because they beat the Georgia Revolution, and then they lost 3-1 to the Birmingham Legion this past week. So, still a great showing to even get to that game. Birmingham is pretty much on the same level as, like the Tampa Bay Rowdies. We mentioned Charlotte FC. They were a huge minor club that just got promoted to the MLS. And so they're kind of on that tier as well, just outside the MLS, but still carry a huge support system. Supporters in the South, across multiple states that Birmingham does. So Chattanooga, another one of those teams. But yeah, all of these teams that are in the U.S. Open Cup and lowly southern states from the Gulf Coast Conference of the NPSL was able to get up there and play against them. So that was just really cool to see.
Yeah, absolutely. So obviously Southern States catches a lot of heat here from the conference, and us here on the podcast as well, Trent. We're not going to try to sweep that under the rug, and that's something that's on record that you can go back and listen to previous episodes. But yeah, man, aspirationally, TSC could legitimately be in these conversations. You win your conference, and then I think because the MPSL dumps 10 teams into the Open Cup, Trent, you only have to win one more game. A conference championship may get you in based on points of the regular season, but if you win a game after coming into your conference, you're one of those final 8 teams, I believe it is, depending on the variety of the bracket. I know it was a little weird last year, so we'll have a lot more of those West Coast teams in this year, so it'll be a little tougher to break that threshold. But if you get into that Elite 8, I think that pretty much guarantees you a spot in the Open Cup to go play potentially the Revolution again, and then kind of go through on those bigger stages. Because Birmingham is in NISA. They're arguably a Tier 2 / Tier 3 team, depending how you look at NISA and how it's categorized. But Birmingham's big, man. They have full-time players, and those guys are getting paid. So big time to be able to get on that stage. And, once you get after Birmingham, you start looking at the Rowdies. And then the next round, you can start looking at Orlando City. You can start looking at Atlanta. And then you get into some really fun conversations if we're able to make a awesome Super Cinderella run here for TSC, which is always the aspiration, right? To be able to do those kind of things. And great. And one of the benefits of joining the MPSL is to have a legitimized team in a legitimized league that can have a path to win a truly national, top-to-bottom U.S. championship trophy. So really cool to look forward to that. And yeah, that's just kind of the update of soccer as a whole, Trent. So we got one more topic. Unless you want to talk, you got anything else here on kind of the big picture soccer scene outside of TSC a little bit?
No, y'all just get ready because we're going to be there next year.
There you go. So let's keep it rolling. As one thing that was a previous topic of conversation now is kind of a humorous punchline / frustrating for the board of directors and other things. Trent, what in the world's going on with these uniforms? Because we hyped it up, deservedly so. Some fantastic looking uniforms. But what's the latest, big dog?
Yeah, so not looking good for the uniforms. The factory had a COVID outbreak and shut down, so we're kind of stuck in limbo and don't really know if what's going to happen with the jersey. So we'll obviously update you guys ASAP, but currently, as it stands on April 11th, up in the air.
Yeah, there you go. So who knows when they're coming in, if they're going to be coming in late, or we're trying to get those updates piped to you as soon as we know them. But last word is will probably not make game 1. So whether that looks like last year's uniforms or we're going to be rocking T-shirts with duct tape numbers out there, which would be fantastic for a gritty TSC team, we shall see. But, yeah, obviously option A1 that we didn't really talk about. We talked about the voting process of whether it be A or B, or A was decided. So those are dope. We talked about the away uniforms in depth, which are also going to be dope. Trent, and then the goalkeeper jerseys, man. Talk a little bit about those as a former keeper yourself, big dog. What kind of colorations can we expect once or if these unis ever get in or make it to Tallahassee?
Yeah, so those are going to be black and pink, a little bit of white in there. It's got the same kind of dashing across in pink. It just looks incredible. Chris Petley, if you're listening, I need a one-of-one fan-made goalkeeper jersey. If you even want to call me up for a game, I'll be the third keeper. So I know that Petley has all the input on game day decisions. So that's why I say that.
Yeah, absolutely. So of course a fun little sidebar there for the Prez. Had to give him a shout out, Trent, as we went the whole podcast without dropping a Pez.
Yeah, how we do that?
Mom, but we got it in there, man. Those are the 2 requirements. We say Cousin Cy, and we talk about Petley at least once throughout the course of the podcast, and mission accomplished. But that's pretty much it. That's all we got for episode 21. Any final comments before we drop this, Trent, or any closing remarks?
Just want to say goodbye to all the players we'll be losing this year. Excited for all the new ones and returning ones we'll get. And thanks, Josh Bruno, for coming on and giving us a stellar interview. That was incredible. I've listened to it probably 6 times all the way through now, and it's been a pleasure each time. I come away with something new every time. So always love listening to that guy talk. always love having him coach, the team that I get to cover. I would go to war for that man any day. So thankful that he gets to lead the charge here for the Battle Alliance.
Yeah, absolutely. So that'll do it. Yeah, thanks again for Coach. Obviously, bomb interview. He did a total great job. Very insightful, dynamic, passionate. Fired us up, Trent, as I know. We listened to it beforehand. Got juiced up all over again. I can't imagine what he is as a head coach, in and out throughout the course of the season, to these guys. But that's all that's going to do us here for episode 21. Make sure to check us out on social media, Tallahassee Talk, all your favorite media below. Of course, hit the mailbag, which you can see the information underneath here in the description and below me. But Trent Young and Andrew G will wrap us up here. Hoping to have some more interviews. Come back with episode 22 shortly. Not as much time in between episodes as we get continually closer to the start of the season. April 30th, Saturday, the big day, going up against Jacksonville Armada Week 1. We'll be back before then, but make sure you stay tuned. Thanks again for coming aboard with us. If you are still listening at this point, be back for some more Tallahassee Soccer Club action. Take care.